I'm happiest in the saddle.
A fellow sportsman.
I am an FBI agent!
Great Scott!
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole!
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Come with me if you want to live.
Hello, and welcome to Recent Ramble. It's the more recent events podcast where we cover all the TV, film, and other popular culture of late. My name's Charlie McGee.
I'm George McGee.
And in Recent Ramble, what we like to do is exactly the same as what we do in Retro Ramble, but instead of delving into the past, we just take a look at what's going on right now. Isn't that right, George?
Exactly right. We just can't be, continually looking in the past. We need to focus on the present or even look forward.
Well, it also goes to show that this was not just a passing fad for us, that we are still going to the cinema, hammering away on our PlayStations. We're consuming a lot of streaming services just to stay in touch with what's out there. So in this episode, we're going to be covering a mixture of what's been out at the cinema, what's really good to stream, and a little bit on gaming, because it is that time of the year where a lot of cool games are coming out. So George, what are we going to start off with?
On our last Recent Ramble, I think, we talk about Solo and Deadpool? So
that's correct, Deadpool 2, yeah.
We've missed out on a few of the later summer blockbusters. So I'm thinking I will start, because you have not seen it. I was privy to seeing Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, or Jurassic World 2, or Jurassic Park 6? Is it? I don't know.
Whatever makes it easier to understand.
Yeah.
Or Jurassic Park World?
Fallen colon.
Colon or colon world.
Right, so yeah, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. So this is set 3 years after Jurassic World. So for those of you who have seen Jurassic World, spoilers, but at the end of Jurassic World, the park is destroyed and the island of dinosaurs is abandoned. So this picks up with some nifty retconning. All of a sudden, it's revealed that Isla Nublar, the island of Jurassic Park, is actually host to a dormant volcano, and it's going to erupt, and all the dinosaurs are going to be killed. So Owen Grady, played by Chris Pratt, and Claire Dearing, played by Bryce Dallas Howard, return to the island to save the remaining dinosaurs before the volcano explodes. However, being a Jurassic Park film, there are evil, nefarious poacher types that want to sell the dinosaurs for money or to turn them into weapons or something. I'm not entirely sure.
Right.
This is directed by Juan Antonio Bayona, who is primarily known for his horror films. I think he did The Orphanage, and I think he also did A Monster Calls, which was a very good film last year. And it's a bit of diminishing returns, this film, really. I mean, I think a lot of people had, whilst the first Jurassic World was a massive hit, a lot of people had reservations with it. I know you did, didn't you, Charlie?
Yeah, I just felt it was sold to us as being they're going back to the island, and this time it's going to be something you've never seen before. And it was like, yeah, not in this canon, but I had seen it elsewhere. It was just, I don't know, it's just a very much of a letdown, and very much looked like they were just trying to hook another generation and didn't really care about the nostalgia side of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great blockbuster. I thought, it did everything a Jurassic Park film should, and it had some nice callbacks, but it was, yeah, as you say, trying to do something for a new generation. But the more I saw it, the more it fell apart. It has horrendous plot holes. It has characters you really don't care about. And it has a lot of dodgy CG, when obviously we've covered on Retro Ramble in the past, about the awesomeness of the original Jurassic Park, why it still holds up and why the effects still hold up. So, yeah, this film tries to sort of rectify some of those issues from the first one. So it tries to give those bland characters some sort of backstory, but they don't really have much of a backstory still. Chris Pratt is very much bland action man. He doesn't really have much motivation for things, apart from his motivation in this is he's attached to the the raptor Blue that he's reared from childhood.
I love dinosaurs.
Yeah, well, they both love dinosaurs. So what's her face? Bryce Dallas Howard's character Claire, who was Miss Corporate CEO running around in high heels in the first one, is now all I love dinosaurs and campaigning for their safety. And it tries to make a potentially interesting point about the fact that they are real animals and that they should be protected, even though they are genetically engineered, that they should have rights as well. But that's quickly abandoned for explosions. So yeah, the first half is very much action based, and it's quite, they're on the island, the volcano is going off, and there's some quite good physical comedy, there's some good action. And then the film does a very weird switch, and it switches to this house in a mansion in the mountains where the action takes place. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I could if I wanted to, because the trailers have spoiled everything. There's no surprises left. If you've seen any of the Jurassic World trailers, nothing is left to a surprise. So that's probably one of the biggest things that works against it, is there's no tension, despite they've come up with, again, another genetically engineered evil dinosaur that's sort of more raptor than T-Rex, and is properly evil. Like, you can see how it's clever and sinister and it toys with people. And yeah, so the second half goes a bit haunted house-esque, and that's kind of plays to the director's strengths, but it's a bit weird for a Jurassic Park film to be all set in this house.
It does sound very weird. It sounds very jarring from, I don't know, what we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing it.
Yeah, these epic vistas, jungles and things like that, and then you've got
King Kong type worlds.
Yeah, and then now you've got sort of basements and hallways and rooftops on this country estate. So it's quite weird, but I mean, hats off them to try and do something different, but it doesn't ultimately work very well. And its biggest crime is that the trailers tease the return of Jeff Goldblum, and he is literally in a blink and you miss it cameo. So how dare you, sir?
That's just not fair. I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, we've been watching all of these blockbusters, and I was looking at some of the numbers and seeing how they were performing and seeing how they were ranking. And at one point, since we've all been away, hopefully at some point in August on holiday, during that holiday period, there were 8 of the 10 films in the top 10 were all sequels.
Of course they were.
And yeah, but I mean, it really does go to show how much of a conveyor belt it is at the moment, that it's not about telling a story or about, because there's the thing about films should be one of two things for me. They should be either art or entertainment. Now, obviously,
art or ass. I mean, sorry, entertainment.
Artistic or ass-tastic. No, but if you've listened to our podcast, you can tell that obviously the films we like to cover, at least, very much veer on the side of the entertainment. But we love our share of art. We appreciate it. We watch it. We can't have as much film and banter, and we don't look back longingly on the nostalgia in terms of the gritty sort of artistic films. But whereas these sequels just seem to be just give it more of the same. And I just wonder what they were trying to do with Jurassic Park, even from the first reboot. Like, what was? Let's call it Jurassic World. Let's not call it Jurassic Park. Okay, but it's not really a world. It's still an island. It's just a new name for a theme park, and you're not releasing the dinosaurs on the city.
Well,
it's like a really bad plan for. I mean, surely they should. Whoever put this project on the table in Hollywood had a plan for a trilogy.
Well, no, that's the problem. I said I didn't really want to sort of go into it, but it does open up interesting avenues for the inevitable third one. And from reading interviews with Colin Trevorrow, however you pronounce his name, who directed the first one and has wrote and produced this one, is basically those first 2 chapters are leading to what he wanted to get to, like, of Jurassic World, and that kind of sort of sums it up, of dinosaurs loose in the real world. And it seems like a lot of padding to get there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they've been building up to this, what the third one's gonna what's going to happen in the third one, but haven't got exactly high hopes for it. I mean, chances are, being a fan of the series, I'll still go and see it, but I haven't got overly high hopes for it. Overall, 2.5 out of 5, I'd say.
So, moving on, next up, a film that we not only have both seen, but we had the glorious opportunity to see together.
Yes, we did. We held hands. We held each other. We were both very much looking forward to. I mean, for me, I said this on a previous episode. Outside of the Avengers: Infinity War, this was my most anticipated film of the summer, and I'm glad it delivers. So yeah, Mission Impossible: Fallout.
And it does deliver, doesn't it? I think that's one thing you have to say about this film, is that when you think of the year so far, it is very much Avengers: Infinity War, 18 films in the making. Yeah. But this was only 6 films in the making. But spread over a longer period, this seems to carry more with it.
You and I have talked about the first two, and we delved a little bit in terms of how the series has evolved, that it started off being a different director, a different style, but then it got... the first two were a bit the Tom Cruise show, and then it evolved into more of a team-based thing, a bit more comedy, intermixed with the Tom Cruise doing crazy stunts. But this was really interesting because it is a direct sequel to Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation, and it's the returning director, so Christopher McQuarrie, who's a regular collaborator with Tom Cruise, returns. You and I were at the Empire podcast. It was about a year or so ago, wasn't it?
At the live show.
Yes, it was live at the Prince Charles, and the surprise guest was Christopher McQuarrie, and it was a bit of an odd choice because he didn't really have anything live to promote, but he was in pre-production on Mission 6, as he was calling it then. And I remember him saying, I'm pretending that this film's being made by another director. I'm sort of trying to forget all my tricks that I know and trying to approach it like somebody else has directed it. And to a certain extent, it does feel like a very different film. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It does feel like... I think this shows his talent, McQuarrie, by the way. I think this kind of shows that he has very much looked at the last film and said, okay, what if another director was to take over from me in the style of Mission, and they were to do a follow-on film in a different style, what would they have to do for me, Christopher McQuarrie, to be happy with it? Do you know what I mean? I get the feeling that that's what he's done. He's like, okay, so if you weren't me, but it's me. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I feel he's done. Like, he's developed all of the characters. The plot is similar. It's a repetition, but it's different. You can grasp onto it. It doesn't spend too much time on plot, and it's got some of the best action sequences that I think not only you've seen this year, but in a good few years. Oh, no, in the action stakes, it is phenomenal. I mean, for me, it's in that same breathlessness, sort of exhausting action cinema up there, like Mad Max Fury Road, The Raid, where it's relentless. Yeah, I mean, such good pace, but you feel like you're on the ride. It is that horrible cliche that what was it? Was it the Mirror or the Daily Star? A roller coaster ride of a film. You do feel like you've been taken on this ride. You feel like you're being thrown off the motorcycle. And I mean, there's some really impressive stuff. Obviously, there's some stuff that doesn't look as impressive as it should do, in the film with the halo jump. Yes. That he did all of these jumps, he did hundreds of jumps, that he actually did the halo jump, but because of restrictions or costs or whatever, they did it in Abu Dhabi. And so for the film, they had to superimpose the skyline of Paris underneath it, and it looked fake. And I know directly from Paramount that was kind of like, well, it must, but just a real shame. And that's kind of why the featurette, which I've only seen bits of, but the featurette that talks about the halo jump, it's all about that. That actually worked really well to sell the film because it showed they needed this featurette, because without it, everyone would think that it was just a CGI scene. Yeah, I think, it's got
some phenomenal action in it. It's got such well choreographed fight scenes, like that bathroom brawl with Henry Cavill is amazing. One of the weaknesses with the last one, Rogue Nation, was it started off very strong, but then sort of petered out towards the end, whereas this doesn't. They have properly, go all guns blazing, and it's tense right up to the last few seconds. Interestingly, that McQuarrie, as you say, he's very good. The fact that he's a writer and director, he manages to give the characters their own sort of little moments to shine, and amazingly still managing to add some backstory to Ethan Hunt and put him in different places. We get to see him make mistakes and the actions that will, that occur from that.
I like the relatableness of making him more human, making mistakes, and also the fact that he seems to have embraced his age more in this film. And not just in how he looks, but putting him next to Henry Cavill, who is a 2018 version of Ethan Hunt. Do you know what I mean? Because you wouldn't get away with a Tom Cruise if there was another person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If making Mission Impossible today, it would be very unlikely that they would put, I don't know who you'd call the Tom Cruise equivalent, I suppose.
Well, interestingly, that Tom Cruise had met Henry Cavill before, because Tom Cruise was originally lined up to play Napoleon Solo in the Man from U.N.C.L.E. remake, and then due to scheduling he had to drop out, and they cast Henry Cavill, and I think their paths had crossed during audition, or I don't know if Cruise had been involved in some sort of production capacity. And I think Henry Cavill said, we literally met for 5 minutes, about 10 years ago. And Tom sort of obviously remembered everything about it. I think Henry Cavill gets a lot of stick. He hasn't had the best opportunities with the Superman, the DC franchise.
Because you and I are both members of a certain James Bond group on Facebook for Bond fans only, and there's a lot of hate directed towards him, and it's basically because of Justice League and the DC films.
Everyone says he's just a pretty boy. He's not a good actor,
He can't act, which is not true.
It's not true. I mean, he's really good in this. He's a really good, formidable antagonist, for Ethan Hunt. And I think something that the Mission Impossible series have struggled with is a physical threat to Ethan Hunt. I mean, we've agreed that Dougherty Scott, for all his menacing, is not really much of a threat, and Sean Harris isn't much of a physical threat. He'll whisper you to death
with his dead eyes.
His dead eyes, his shark-like eyes. But Sean Harris is still very good in this.
Great bad guy.
I'd say he's better in this than he is in Rogue Nation. He's got more to do in this. So yeah,
I also think he's kind of showing disclaimer, Christopher Waltz as Blofeld in the last Bond film.
Spoiler.
Was not as good as Christopher Waltz in Inglourious Bastards, as terrifying. And I think that Sean Harris is what I'm trying to say is Bond villain completely 101. It's like,
Sean Harris is terrifying in every role I've seen him in. I mean, he's
in real life. I reckon he's terrifying in real life.
You get the impression he's a very intense man. But he's done a lot of British dramas. He's terrifying in the Red Riding trilogy. That was on Channel 4. That's a very bleak sort of murder mystery thing. Yeah, he's just very good at doing the uncomfortable characters. In terms of weaknesses on this film, I mean, you and I have been raving about it. I would say the plot is a little bit convoluted. It runs you around in circles, and it's probably worth actually saying to our listeners that if you haven't checked it out already, you have to check out the Empire spoiler special interview with Christopher McQuarrie for both this film and Rogue Nation. They are fascinating insights into how a film of this scale gets made and all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And Chris McQuarrie basically says, loads of people have complained about the plot being complicated. Bottom line, it's just about revenge. I think it tries to do too much to wrap you up in all this double crossing and who's who, and would you agree on that?
Absolutely. I think I can actually zero in on it because it kind of occurred to me while we were watching the film, and I think you could have cut out that entire Apostles rubbish.
Yeah.
They could have just said Solomon Lane is in prison, however somebody's filled the space. It's this guy called John, or is it John Lark?
John Lark.
I need a name that I can easily pronounce. So I think that would have been enough. I think that would have been enough. But it's because you and I talked about this. It's the mission briefing he gets. When you're going through them, you're like, this has got to be as long as all of the mission briefings he's had so far put together. It's really complicated.
There's a huge exposition dump, isn't it?
It's a massive dump of exposition. And I remember just going through all this, because if you, looking back at the end of the film, if you think like what could have actually been stricken from that mission briefing, it's, like without going into too much detail about the end of the film, it's just that those apostles things, it doesn't come up again. It's all about Tom Cruise, it's all about Solomon Lane and this John Lark character, and then obviously that girl from The Crown, I can't remember her name.
Vanessa Kirby is the actress's name.
Those the characters in this. The apostles don't feature at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of characters, and there is a lot of misdirection.
No, but my point is, in that first mission briefing, there's about 2 or 3 minutes talking about how actually the apostles are this team of people who have been keeping it going for Solomon Kane while he's in prison, and John Lark is in contact with the apostles. You could just cut that entire apostles thing. Anyway, It was a lot of exposition. My only negative thing about this film, something that affected both of us, was that it is such the type of film you want to watch with a crowd. And we watched it with a great crowd, didn't we? And
yes.
You want to be there. You want the gasps, you want the nervous laughter, the things that you get when you're in an action film that actually works. But we couldn't see this in IMAX.
Yes.
And I'm putting this down as a negative thing because the reason we couldn't go and see it in IMAX is because after, what was it, just 1 week it had gone to Ant-Man and the Wasp?
It's worth saying that we were both back home in Newcastle at that time. So yes, it may be a little bit different in London. But yeah, we had a week of showings of IMAX, and then it was nothing but Ant-Man and the Wasp on IMAX.
And I went to see Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Ant-Man seems to have gone from an interesting, different track for Marvel to a complete family-friendly film, with Michael Douglas's head superimposed on somebody else's body for a large part of the final act.
I think that's what Downey Jr. is doing these days. They pay him $50 million just to CGI his head onto a CGI double.
I hadn't noticed it though because with Tony Stark, with Downey Jr., just like, is it him? Is it not him? That looks a bit taller than Downey Jr. Oh, I suppose he's got boots and everything. But with Douglas, you go, there's no effing way that is Douglas.
Yeah. He's moving far too nimbly, and there's not a woman in sight.
And he's just so well built. He looks like about half a foot taller than he is normally. But no, very disappointed about. That's my only gripe about this film. Some could argue that there's too much action, that it's too fast paced. But come on, it's Mission Impossible, Mr. Hunt. I loved it and just would have loved to have seen it in IMAX, but I'm not sure about the end, about but this whole him getting long in the tooth, is he going to settle down? I don't know, it just fell flat on me because we all knew that this film was going to be successful, and due to its success we know there's going to be another one.
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, it will be interesting to see where it does go, whether Macquarie does return. He's been very uncommittal as he was with the last one, but
I think
it would be great for him to return. I think the David Schwimmer money that it's making, I'm sure Paramount will be turning up with a dump truck of money at his door to complete the trilogy. So yeah, I think it's safe to say 5 stars from me.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, maybe 9 out of 10, but 5 stars. That doesn't make sense. Very quickly, I will cover 2 other films that I've seen, which both have the number 2 in them. As I mentioned before, yes, a lot of sequels out there. So most recently, I've seen Equalizer 2. Now, obviously, if you've listened to the podcast, you'll know I had a lot of love for the first one, The Equalizer. I felt that this was the Jack Reacher film that we'd all been waiting for, but hadn't been delivered by Mr. Cruise, who we were just talking about. Denzel is big, he's foreboding, and he's a an Oscar-worthy actor. He did a great job on the first one. It was about the Russian mafia. It was all very current.
It ended in a B&Q. It was great.
You took the words out of my mouth, and it ended up with a showdown with an assassin using nothing but B&Q paraphernalia.
Hardware supplies.
Hardware supplies to take out its villains. And that's what's really missing from the second film. Yes, it's a typical sequel.
B&Q?
No, it's missing B&Q or IKEA or whatever. I don't think they realized how much of a success the film that was, in that they've taken his story forward. Yes, it's somebody else who means something to him, and it's an interesting way of positioning. It's very predictable. You kind of think you know who the baddie is, and it's kind of revealed. But rather than taking them to B&Q, which is what I was really hoping was going to happen, or even IKEA, or even, I don't know, Burger King, even, and I mean, obviously he's a Lyft driver. That's how he's finding his jobs, and he's playing the Good Samaritan when he sees crime come via his...
I just hate crime.
Exactly. He hears all of these stories, and he interacts with these people through his Lyft job. Please don't say Uber. Don't compare him to Uber because Lyft have paid for the product placement.
Yeah.
So there's all that, but yeah, it's kind of more of this. It's held together by some great performance from him.
It's Denzel. The man can't put in a bad performance.
No, I've loved him in pretty much everything he does, and once again he arrives here, and it's great. And there's him monologuing. There's him
doing the watch thing. I'm assuming lots of timing.
There's a great little scene that's thrown in the beginning. It's like, if you loved that in the first one, here it is again. It's a different actor. But that is the problem with the film. There's some action at the beginning. There is an Act 3, and there's a lot in the middle with no action. And it's really slow in the middle. And I went in to watch this film, and I'd read the critics, and everyone was like, it's all right. It was a bit meh. It was very low down, and I'm normally more positive than the critics. And I went in there, and I'm still more positive, but it was kind of sluggish in the middle. And I'm not sure if they will make a third one. We shall see.
No post-credits reveal of him crossing paths with John Wick. A man can hope.
Once again, brother, that was my next point. I was going to
Great minds.
The only way I can see this being salvaged is if the world gives us what we want, which is, John, you heard about this guy. John, you working again? And their paths cross.
No, but the thing is, I think John Wick is quickly becoming this generation's Chuck Norris of that he cannot be stopped. So I think it would be, even as much of a badass as Denzel is, I think it would be a one-sided thing, especially if Denzel's, Equalizer had something to do with the killing of a family pet or something like that, or his car.
It is ironic that, because what Keanu's must be approaching 50.
I think Keanu's 51. I think
that's what I mean. So Keanu's just hit 50, and I'm pretty sure Denzel's in his 60s. So it's kind of, I could be wrong on that. Denzel could be a very fighter.
I think Denzel's mid 50s, maybe mid to late 50s.
Really? Are they that close together?
Let's have a look. You're right. You're right. No, my correction. He is 60. Denzel is 63.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves movie. Keanu Reeves, well, as a lot of people will tell you, he is immortal.
While searching, I like that.
Maybe I may be filling time, but he is immortal. There are memes online where it's like a Dorian Gray thing. There's like an oil painting from the 16th century that looks like Keanu Reeves.
Let me start on that. I just got told today that Avril Lavigne died 3 years ago, and there's been somebody replaced her, some Mexican girl.
Amazing. So Keanu Charles Reeves, full name, is 54 years old.
So 9 years between the two. But it is funny that they are two...
Born in Beirut, the Lebanon, in 1964. Sorry, I'll stop.
Okay, calm down, internet boy. Yeah, so it's crazy to think those are the two big action stars are these, these guys who are like 50's the new 30, man. If you love the Equalizer, I'd probably... You
wait for Netflix. Wait for a streaming. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. There's a good performance with that guy from Narcos. Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, and they do some interesting work with I guess you could say the tropes, or you know the more technical terms, the pace of the film, the structure. It's.
You mean the generic conventions?
Yes. So that was the Equalizer 2. Check it out if you can, and if you can't, don't worry about it. Incredibles 2.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, because I don't know if it's just me or whether it's, World Cup summer and what have you, but this seemed to arrive with very little fanfare or expectation, which is a shame, because I watched the first one. I'm trying to get all of my daughter into it, and she did actually watch it in two halves, and I forgot how good it is, the first one. So I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on this.
The good news is, it is, I would say, as good as the first.
Ooh.
The only negative thing about it is it doesn't have the originality, but it does an amazing. It has been. I don't know whose hands it's been put in. Is it Brad Bird again?
Yeah, it's Brad Bird.
Well, that's probably why. It seems like it's exactly. It shows his talent, because it's exactly the sequel it deserved. The question going through your head is, why did they wait? What is it? 6 years since they did?
15.
Really? Is it that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what's on show here is the graphics. The CGI people, it's actually pretty mind-boggling what they're doing and the way that it looks. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to say too much about it. It's just if you go see it, it's brilliant, and there's some nice surprises in it that I don't want to tell people what those surprises. They're not even like, I'm not talking about massive plot devices and stuff. I'm just talking about little things here and there that you might not have expected, which I think replace some of the lack of originality. So go and see it. It's great. It is as good as I would say it's just slightly less than the first film, but it's right up there. I'm hoping they're going to make another one, and I'm pretty sure they are, because it's Disney and it's reliable. I did see quite a bit of marketing on, because obviously I have a son who is buying some of these Disney items, and he got a magazine for cars, and all over the back of it was about the Incredibles.
Oh, incroyable.
Les Incroyables.
Incroyable.
So yeah, that's why I did struggle to see it, because I had to find a cinema showing it in the version originale, because obviously with
animation
in France, with it being animated, they just, what's the point,
Yeah.
of the dubbing. But yeah, I did manage to track it down, and yeah, I enjoyed it. Samuel's in it, there's more characters in it, and the one thing I would say about it is, in terms of the CGI and the effects, is it reminded me of, when we were younger, we were watching like Spider-Man and stuff. Like superheroes have their place in animation, and I'm pretty sure when this whole thing that we're going through at the moment, when that dies its death, I think it's where they will return to.
Well, interestingly, I was just working on a brief at work for the new Spider-Man film, which is obviously Sony really milking the cash cow, but it's actually going to be a Spider-Man animated film, so it comes out in November, I think. It's called Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And yeah, so it's animation. It's done by Lord and Miller, who did Jump Street, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and original directors of the Han Solo film. And that looks really interesting in terms of the visual style and stuff. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that does, especially as it's completely outside of the Marvel MCU.
What sort of animation is that going to be?
It's really stylized. It's really hard to explain. It's not manga-y, but it's
so like Batman animated series type.
It's very it's kind of traditional, but then it's got lots of CG enhancements and a bit. Yeah, I'd say check out the trailer. It's called Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's very stylishly sort of the visuals on it, and it could be good. Could be interesting.
Excellent. Well, there will be some more chat about Spider-Man later in this episode once we get into the gaming section. So yeah, highly reliable. That big question of why did they wait so long? However, the good news is, because I mean, this has happened with a few other films that the names escape me, where they've waited much longer than they should have done, and everyone's kind of gone, why did you bother? Like, there was kind of, I did enjoy Sin City 2, but it was like, why did you wait so long? And it was kind of mediocre, the second one. It was like, this is doing it right. This is waiting, and it doesn't feel like there's any break whatsoever.
Yeah, no, it's. I can't wait to see it. I think I've missed that window at the cinema, but I'm sure, as I say, with the way if all is getting into the Incredibles on the small screen, I'll probably be watching it multiple times in future, whether I want to or not.
Speaking of small screens, do you want to get off the segue, or shall I get off the segue and we'll talk about TV?
Yes, so TV. For once, I was, I don't know if I'll ever be ahead of the curve, but I was watching something fairly recent TV-wise. So whilst I'm obviously playing catch-up on Narcos, so I'm about halfway through series 2 of that, which is really good, I decided to jump in and watch one of Netflix's many new releases, and that is the Lost in Space remake, reboot, redo, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I've watched 2 or 3, is it 2? Maybe just 2 episodes of that, and had mixed feelings to it. So I'd be very interested to hear what you think after because you watched all of it, yeah? Yeah,
so I watched all of season 1, so it's 10 episodes. Was an interesting setup and a different spin on the original series. I mean, in all honesty, I don't really have any knowledge of the original 1960s series. You and I went and saw the late 90s reboot with Matt LeBlanc and William Hurt and Heather Graham and stuff, which was. I think we kind of really enjoyed it because we watched it in America and we thought it was awesome, and then you watched it again and it kind of Gary Oldman's in it as well as a giant spider or something. But yeah, it's definitely an improvement on that. Goes to say it's an interesting spin on the original series, which was just focused on the one Robinson family, whereas this has a lot more characters to play with. It's got some really good production values, it
looks great,
very good CGI. The first few episodes are really gripping, and they are, I think a few of them are directed by Neil Marshall, who is a Geordie director who started off he did Dog Soldiers. He's done a lot of directing for Game of Thrones as well. So he's a very talented director, and yes, some of the first episodes are great, but it's the typical Netflix curse of padding. There's at least, maybe 2-3 episodes in the middle you could cut out, and it doesn't really add anything to the story or character development. Towards the end, there's lots of Lost-style plot strands to set up future series. So, yeah, there's quite a few sort of cliffhangers. I'm not sure if I will jump into the second series if it does happen.
That says a lot.
Yeah, it's sort of like with TV, there's so much out there, so I'm not gonna rush back. If there's nothing else on, I might give it a go. But I say with there's so much TV out there, I probably will give the second series if it does get can I get a second series? If it does get a second series, I probably will give it a miss.
Well, I can say in its defense, because I switched off, I think, after 2 episodes going, and I went online and I checked, I think I saw what other people were saying about it. It might have even been in one of the film groups that we follow, but I heard somebody writing a very impassioned and positive review of it. And it seemed to be, but their point was, I watched this with my kids, and it's one of the best series I've ever watched. Do you know what I mean? So
I suppose that's a good point. The kids' characters are quite good in it. To be fair to it, they are. They're not annoying like most of them were in the 90s film version. The kids are actually you spend a lot of time with the characters, and most of the characters are quite interesting. The villain, Dr. Smith, is actually this time played by a woman, by sort of classic 80s actress Parker Posey, and she's pretty annoying. But yeah, it's got some good characters in it, but it's just a bit sort of like, as you say, it's a real derogatory, but it's a bit meh.
As you say, the production of what I saw in the first 2 episodes, Lost in Space, was great. The setup was good. It was interesting. It was fresh. And obviously there's going to be lots of relationship dynamics going on. But I was just like, this isn't for me.
Yeah. Are there any series you want to talk about?
Not in much detail. I mean, just really to update you on what people might be watching and not to spoil anything. But yeah, happily enjoying the most recent series of Better Call Saul. I think we're up to series 4 now. I forget. We've had to wait a long time for this series, just a bit longer. I think it was supposed to come out a bit earlier. I'm not sure. I haven't read into why the delay was. But that's great, and it's getting much more like the really good bits of Breaking Bad, which is the more criminal cartel.
I'll be interested to see how. I mean, I haven't watched any of Better Call Saul, but obviously being a prequel, it's obviously going to catch up to Breaking Bad at some point. Is it showing any signs of that?
It'll end, and that's what you've got to respect Vince Gilligan for, is that I reckon there'll be 5 series and it'll be done.
Yeah.
And I can't say how much I love that about, it's what is everything that's wrong with series is them trying to make more than 5.
Yeah, or even that much, really. It's about telling a story. It's not about making money.
So yeah, I mean, I've been watching that, and what's it called, Money Heist or Casa de Papel, which everyone is watching, and to a lesser extent, that seems to be going through. That seems to be so. I mean, it's great. I highly recommend watching it, but it seems to be suffering from 2 different things. One is Netflix's need to pad, as you were talking about padding, and the other is because it's obviously Spanish made, and this is not at all stereotypical comment, but it's a bit heavy on the melodrama, like a good Spanish soap in places. Almost,
okay.
It loses some of its punch that it established in the first season, at least. And it is very much just sort of Mr. Robot. Well, what are you going to do now? It's
right.
About a heist, and you've robbed the bank. What are you going to do now? Type thing.
We must go back to the bank.
Yeah, it's about the chase. It's about the escape. And this is how they spend the money. I guess that brings us to Jack Ryan.
Yes. So new Jack Ryan. I think there's been as many Jack Ryans as there has been Batmen.
Right, that's good to know. I think our favourite Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, so I don't think I've read any of the novels. Have you read any of the Tom Clancy novels?
No.
So yeah, I can't sort of say how accurate the characters to the novels, but from reading online and reading in our movie groups, apparently Alec Baldwin's Dr. Ryan is the closest to the book character, and the Harrison Ford is a massive deviation from it. It's just apparently Harrison Ford playing Harrison Ford. Whereas this, I watched Hunt for Red October recently, and this does feel a bit more like the Dr. Ryan part of it. He's a very intelligent guy that dabbles in a bit of action.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I watched the first episode of this literally the other night. So it's got Jim from The Office, whatever, John Krasinski, whatever. But no, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, really gripping, quite violent. I think I will continue to watch it. I think it had shades of Homeland, but in a good way, before Homeland went silly in terms of the sort of, chasing the terrorists and stuff like that.
I need to give him more time, because I need to stop drinking so much red wine before I sit down, because I think I got like 45 minutes into the first. How long is the first episode? I think
it's an hour. Yeah, I think it's an hour.
Yeah, so I was like, this is good. It was just it's not because it was boring. It was just a late evening, so I will have to go back to that.
I will be delving into it. I thought it was a really good sort of modern spy thriller. So yes, looking forward into sort of trying to juggle that with my many other series as well.
Well, yeah, the other one that I won't really talk about in much detail other than to say that it is very good is Ozark. I watched the first season, and I am just waiting for my wife to catch up. She's loving the first season as well, and then we're going to go watch the second. But I'm not sure what it's like, but so more information on that later.
Yeah, no, I've had a few people recommend that to me. I watched the first episode with my wife, and she thought it was too intense and too stressful, so we'll try and get back into it at some point.
I think what you'll like about it, the same thing as me, is what happened if Michael Bluth was still Michael Bluth and it was a serious gangster film?
yes, that does.
He's trying to hold a family together, but this time it's not laughs.
What's the most important thing? Breakfast? No, family. Family's the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'd say that finishes it for me from TV, unless there's anything else you want to discuss?
Well, just quickly on the point of Michael Bluth, I watched the latest series of Arrested Development, and it is very much diminishing returns. It's got some good giggles, but it's nowhere near the heights of the original first three series. So I'd say I'd say it's for completists only. It's a shame because it's all the same people involved, but it's just kind of lost that spark it once had. Shall we move on to video games? Are they still called video games? It's more consoles or just gaming?
I think it's called gaming, but I think the Gambling Commission of Las Vegas have decided to call it gaming in the hope that it'll all come under the same umbrella one day. But Christmas is only 4 months away. No, the games are coming out. We are we're just in that period of the year where a bunch of games come out. They kind of wait their turn, but we have got Red for Dead Redemption 2 coming out. There's obviously the new Call of Duty game that's coming out. There's a new Battlefield 5 that's coming out, and there's a bunch of other games. But the most recent that's come out, we were talking about the film earlier, is Spider-Man. As we've talked about in some of our other, when we've covered gaming in the past, we don't play a lot, but the games we do play are kind of related to films in some way, whether it's the movie aspect of the Uncharted series or The Last of Us, or whether it be the Batman.
The Arkham games.
Yeah, the Arkham series. I've looked online and I haven't actually found Rocksteady, the studio behind the Arkham series. I really want to find out what they think of this Spider-Man game, because yes, there are people on one side that are saying that this is this the best superhero video game that's ever been made, Spider-Man? And I would say possibly. The first thing to point out is that you're in a New York, which is much more accurate than anything you've seen in GTA. It is New York. It is the size of New York. The buildings are identical. Some of the brand names have changed, but it is crazy just to be running about in such a highly accurate geographical location. That's the first thing. However, the combat system seems to have been completely lifted from Arkham.
A lot of the reviews I read have mentioned that it's just shamefully lifted from Arkham.
To the extent where, I pre-ordered this game months ago. I knew I was going to play it. I knew what a big title it was going to be for PlayStation. I'd seen the trailer for it. But honestly, after downloading it and playing it for 10 minutes, I actually go online and check to see who made it. I was like, this must be. This must be. They must have been involved somewhere.
Yeah.
They must be using the same engine. It's scandalous. It's not scandalous because we're the consumer. We should be happy with the end product. It is amazing, and they are doing things in this game that they don't do in the Arkham series. If Arkham and GTA had a child and Marvel were involved, this is the product, and it's brilliant. There's some great story. There's some great detective side to it. There's great stealth. There's great action. There's great set pieces. There is much more than just boss levels. They do some great stuff where you're chasing the car through the streets, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
When you actually get on the car, you're flipping about, avoiding gunshots and stuff, and still trying to take the guys out. All of the way that it's put together is great. But the one thing, the oh my God, wow, I think I texted you after playing it for about 5 minutes, is you get up on the top of a building and the first time you start swinging through, it is just unbelievable sensation. They've obviously, there's articles about this, how much they invested on the physics and the feel and the look and feel, and how it's a combination of everything you've seen in all of the recent films of how he moves and flips and goes through the air. And you're thinking, oh my God, it's going to be really complicated and you're going to have to point at each building. That was the worry that everyone had.
Yeah.
And I'm not spoiling anything when I tell you that on the tutorial it just goes, to swing in between buildings, hold R2.
Nice.
And that is it, everything else is tricks and flicks and stuff like that, so the thing that you want to be able to do and look as clean and cool as possible is just pressing one button. Like, it's a very clever thing that they've done.
Well, I remember playing, I think it was Spider-Man 2 game on PS2.
Yeah, the PS2.
And I think that was the last good one that they did, and they managed to get, that was one of the best things, was, I think it was open world.
I remember that.
Yeah, and the web swinging was one of the best things of just, racing around the city. But yeah, it's I imagine with obviously the graphics and engines of today, that is probably something special. So yes, I will have to get around to giving that a go at some point, but I have other games to keep me occupied in the meantime.
You've got a bunch of titles to get through, buddy. Yeah, but it's brilliant how there's some things that it's so Marvel in some ways. Like, there's a ton of suits. Like, where did all these suits come from? And they all look like Spider-Man, but they're all slightly different. They're all pretty cool. There's the Stark suit from the Avengers films that Spider-Man has appeared in. And yes, there is actually a suit that has those spider iron arms that come out.
Oh, okay.
Which is a lot of fun. So, yeah, I mean, wish fulfillment for somebody who grew up watching Spider-Man cartoons and has watched the brilliant Spider-Man 2, the so-so Spider-Man 1, the terrible Spider-Man 3, and Andrew Garfield giving it a good go in more recently. It was worth the wait. It's it's up there. It's as good as Arkham, and it's just a much more Spider-Man happy, not so much happy, but a much more upbeat, sunny New York. Yes, there's crime, but Gotham is so dark in comparison. This is it embraces that tone very well. He's got some very good comedy.
Well, I think obviously it is titled as Marvel's Spider-Man, so I think they've had a lot of involvement in it in terms of, and probably in the same way that obviously the Arkham games, they brought on the writers from the animated series and stuff like that. So it's not just a game producer making, having some sort of artistic license in terms of and that's what I've read in the reviews. It's a very good Spider-Man / Peter Parker story.
I know he's great as both. You enjoy snooping around as him, and the characters are brilliantly drawn, and the fact that it's not another origin story. He's been around the block. There's even some great lines from some of the hoods. What are they called? The hood, that go around with the bad guys. Was like, yeah, I remember when he was just a pissy little teenager, and the boss, they're talking about Kingpin, that used to kick his ass all the time. And they're basically, it's very much, he's further down the line. He's got a history with all of these villains. Okay. He's got a history with Kingpin, and Kingpin's draw is very good in it as well. He's very much the big Izzy. It's always him and Osborn sort of thing, but Dr. Ock, everyone's in it. So I mean, I think I'm only 30% through the game, and I am loving it. So
cool.
Yeah, I mean, not so much. Just to quickly touch on the other ones that are coming out. Battlefield, obviously Battlefield 1 was a celebration of, a commemorative, 100 years since the Great War, a very loving, artistic piece, very, very well done in terms of tone and how to remember the fallen, and an amazing kick-ass FPS game with all the retro weapons and flying biplanes and all of that. It was an amazing game, whereas this Battlefield 5, which I pre-ordered to get the beta. I played the beta. It's a really bad sequel, and I've since cancelled my pre-order, which you can do on PlayStation. And instead, I took the money from that and just went for the new COD Black Ops 4, which the beta has just dropped. So more information on that. But yeah, it just goes to show that these game studios can get just as lazy as movie studios. It's a very much a FIFA upgrade, if you know what I mean.
Well, that's the most sort of damning statement you can give to any game.
Yeah, they've touched up a few things here and there, and the fact is, Battlefield 1 is so good, and there's still so many people playing it. Like, if I want a game on it, if I want like a period piece, I'll go back and play that. I'm not going to buy a World War II version, which has not had as much thought put into it and is a cash grab. Might as well I'll just do what I do with FIFA and Pro Evo. I'll give Battlefield skip a year, and I'll check out the COD. Yeah, because it's been a while since I got into. I've taken a break from Call of Duty, and obviously they always look sleeker, but we'll see how it goes. So the only last thing I would say about gaming is that even though tons of people will buy it because of the success of GTA, Red Dead 2 doesn't look that impressive. I may eat my words when it comes out and love it, but from the looks of the trailers, it looks like they've taken a lot of what works for GTA 5 and ported that across. There's going to be much more multiplayer, but it looks very similar to the first Red 4 Dead, which was not bad, but just to have that again,
more of the same.
I could stand corrected. I don't know this is Rockstar we're talking about. I think it's actually Rockstar. It's not Rockstar North, is it Rockstar? It's a division that specifically make the Red 4 Dead games.
Okay.
So I think it'll depend when, because they're all fighting for people's attention, and Spider-Man has started really, really strong, and Red 4 Dead, even though it's a Western, it's still an RPG in the same light. It'd be interesting to see how they stand up against each other. And there's another game I'm forgetting, but I'll put it on the blog. There's a lot of games coming out between now and I'm not even going to say Christmas, because they've all got to be out before Black Friday.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They are all out by mid to late November. So more on that to come.
Well, so those poor parents can start saving up for these £60 games.
They're more expensive. I know I live in France, but they seem to be more expensive here. They're like 70 euros, and with the exchange rate, they're 70 or 80 euro, and that's like good 65, 70 quid.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And PlayStation games, they're arguing that more goes into it. It's like, I don't buy that. They've, even with allowing for inflation, PlayStation games were never more than 30 or 40 quid. They were like 40.
I think they were like 45 top end.
Yeah, that was when they were brand new. So now they start like at 60. And the only reason I bring this up is the only people it screws over, it's not really us consumers, because it's about choice, and it's not like we should be able to own every game. It should be about opportunity cost. But the people I think about are like the indies, the indie markets, the independent games, is that they can't price themselves as well. Just obviously there's a very big fans of Naughty Dog in terms of what they do for Uncharted and Last of Us. But when they released Legacy, the
spin-off,
the Uncharted Lost Legacy, it was 25 quid.
Yeah.
It's basically them saying, hey, look, we're using the same engine as Uncharted 4. Here's a brand new story, and it was 25 quid. That's how studios should behave, rather than here's a reskinning with some slightly improved graphics, and
that's not to mention all the DLC stuff that you have to pay extra for.
Well, as you see with these games, that you get half a game, which the good thing, this is why I'm going to say social media does work, because these studios do listen, or they do react much more than they used to. Like FIFA had pretty poor sales for the new one. Sorry, for last year's. There was obviously FIFA 17 was a massive leap forward in the gaming engine, but they started flogging FIFA 17 was the great game. They started flogging FIFA 18 in the lead up to the World Cup for 16 quid on the store.
Oh, okay.
Loads of people bought it, so they kind of, it'll be interesting when the next consoles come out and we get rid of the discs, because I think that's what's going to happen. It wouldn't actually really bother me. It would have bothered me when I was a student and I was buying secondhand games. It doesn't bother me now, because I actually can you believe that I kind of sigh when I have to get up and take a disc out now, because I think I've got 80% of my games are downloaded.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, Grand Theft Auto is a disc game. So I think it will come, and it'll be interesting to see how the games are priced.
Well, I've just obviously I've got your old PS4, and I bought Just Cause 3 off the PlayStation Store in their summer sale, and I got like the special edition of that for something like £6-7. The original, the like standalone version was £5, but this had all like the DLC stuff, and the DLC separately was something like £15. So yeah, the model's still a bit off, but in terms of their Sony's online sale, you could still get, I think you could get the Arkham remastered trilogy for like 15 quid. So obviously they're a bit older, but it shows that they're still making the online game in the sales and stuff. It's still, they're good value.
I'm hoping it will all align in that it'll all sort itself out in that it'll go to downloads only, and then all of the kids who've got to have the game as soon as it comes out they will buy at full price, and the poor parents, which would probably include myself by that stage, they will have to front the cost. But the rest of us who want to play games, we just have to be patient, and just wait. That was what I was like when I got my PS3. I got it because I'd been away traveling. I got it for a year, or at least I think it was almost a year and a half after it had come out. And so I had this period where all the games, I was playing all the original games, and they were all really cheap, but I very quickly caught up and wanted the latest, greatest games. So it'll be interesting to see how digital only will affect. But then the streaming, the Steam, there's all these other things. There's Nintendo doing some, like the Switch has done really well. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the second installment of that, because in terms of, they're always trying to mix things up, Nintendo.
Yeah, and whether this whole VR shenanigans will ever take off as well, or mixed reality gaming, because they're pouring billions into that, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm still holding fire. Like, everyone's like, oh, you love your PlayStation, have you got the VR? I'm just like, nope. 400 quid for like a headset and a lot of wires, and I think, I don't know, I just think it's at least 5.
Give it time.
Yeah, at least 5 years away. So I think we've been yapping for long enough. That's everything I have to say. George, what have we got coming up in our next, when we're back to normal and we go back in time and we do Retro Ramble?
Our regular schedule, we've got our Van Damme double bill of Bloodsport and Hard Target, so that'll be out soon. It may even be, we'll probably get this episode out beforehand, but that'll be out towards the end of September.
Cool.
I say that. And then we've got some interesting films to finish the year off. Some big hits, some 2 80s classics to see the year off. But obviously there's the release of The Predator, comes out very, very soon. So I wouldn't be surprised if you and I may share our thoughts on that at some point as well.
When is that out, actually?
It's out in the UK this weekend. So I don't know when it is out in France.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I'll obviously see it as soon as I can. Shame we couldn't see it together, but I'd be interested to see how it goes. As I say, really upset about the trailer, but hopefully the film will make up for it.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Great, so that's been Recent Ramble. Don't know if you guys enjoy these more, less, or the same as our usual episodes, just to show that we've still got an interest in what's going on in the world of TV, cinema, and all things related. So I've been Charlie McGee.
I've been George McGee.
And we will see you very soon.
Yes, please remember, if you do like what we're doing, please share with your like-minded people, with your friends, but also leave us a review on iTunes, because these things count. It gets us to a wider audience. So yes, feel free to share the love.
And specifically iTunes, because we are on every other platform. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, what's it, Acast?
Yeah, Acast, most podcast platforms, we're on there.
But I did read the other day that about over 80% of podcasts are listened to via iOS. So
yeah, if you listen to us on iTunes, just leave us a review. Just go for it.
Cool. Okay, and we're obviously at retroramble.blog. So that's everything. I hope you enjoy the show, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon. Bye-bye.